And now you know what the worst part is? This game is already lost. Like, now we have to sit here for 6.5 minutes trying our best to win, but we just won't be able to.
Push is absolutely the most unbalanced game mode in Overwatch right now, and I'm not sure why it's in the game. A lot of streamers are noticing how quickly the game becomes one-sided, but why is that? What was it about that point in the fight that told Super that he was definitely going to lose? Well, it's because of this, because of how far the other team has gotten. The enemy team made it to 132 meters, and now in order for Super's team to win, they needed to make it the 132 meters to the center, plus the 132 meters back through the opposing side. Well, yeah, that is the core mechanic of the game. It is the only game mode that requires one side to do extra work to win the game. To show exactly how much, in this game, the enemy team held Jason uncontested for 2 minutes and 7 seconds to get to 132 meters, and then Super's team took 26 seconds to get back to the center. And then they need to control Jason uncontested for 2 minutes and 7 seconds. But those 26 seconds where they had full control of the robot, but they made zero progress. Why? How's that fair? So in 26 seconds, all Super did was walk Jason from his spawn to 0, and with 26 seconds, the enemy team has all the time it needs to regroup. Imagine if you were playing Control and the enemy team got up to 80%, and once your team got the point, you had to wait 26 seconds for your percentage to start climbing. That makes no sense. So why does it make sense for Push? Why is there a huge stretch of time where you're in control but make no progress? And the more distance the lead has, the harder it is for the losing team to flip the game. And I'm only mentioning the fact that he walked back once to the center. But it happened multiple times. Multiple times where Super's team walked back to the center and they got no credit for the time they were controlling Jason. And this wasted time is made even worse when the losing team isn't at the start, but did manage to push Jason into enemy territory. If one team has a lead at 139 meters and the losing team has Jason at 138, the losing team could hold Jason from 139 on one side to 138 on the other, win every single fight on the way there, hold Jason uncontested for 54 seconds, and just because they lose the very last fight, they will still lose the whole match. Up to 54 maximum seconds of wasted time that can be walked back and forth multiple times with no real change in the game. How in the world is this a mode? Okay, hold on. Cut the cameras, slow down, let's take a minute. So this hypothetical situation that I was talking about where one team pushes it all the way and the other team has to push it all the way into the enemy territory, since I had recorded all of this a week ago, it wasn't something that I had actually seen until a couple of days ago on Super Stream. Full disclosure, he was playing Quick Play, and he was playing with Dav, who wasn't an Overwatch streamer, and they were messing around at the start, which lost them the lead. But I counted every single second that each team had control of Jason. It wasn't perfect, but what I got was that the enemy team was pushing Jason for about 2 minutes and 57 seconds, and Super's team was pushing for about 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So that means they had 18 extra seconds that they were in control, but they still lost the game. That's the problem that I'm trying to get at. They had control for 18 extra seconds, but they still lost. 18 seconds in a game like Overwatch is a long time. A lot of things can happen in 18 seconds. Games have been flipped and lost, and in any other game mode, if you had control for 18 extra seconds, you'd win. And this time of 18 extra seconds is pretty much in line with what I explained later on about one team needing to control for longer to win, and it just doesn't scream like a balanced game since that's the way it works. Even some of the commentary that Super said, which I'll play in a second, he knows and everybody knows intuitively that something is off about this game. It just doesn't make sense. And all of this math is hopefully going to show you why.
God, fucking Push is so brutal. Gotta win 3 fights there to take the lead. I'm just spam healing. Wait, we're gonna lose. Wait, what?
I just bounced sideways.
Man, this game mode is terrible.
Lick my wounds.
Really? Is it? I thought people would prefer it over UCP or whatever. I can't believe you lost.
We actually won 2 fights there. We didn't get the lead. I'm kind of and I got the late kill on the Doom, so I don't even know.
But anyway, let me get back to the rest of the video. I'll talk a little bit more about the math that I mentioned. So hopefully you're able to see that because I just really don't think this is a good game mode, and I don't think anybody else does either. But yeah, back to the video. And I also want to point out that when the lead switches teams, this whole situation does get more complicated, but there's still a ton of back and forth and wasted time that does not reward controlling the point, regardless of who has a lead. Now I know you're screaming into your monitor, but it's balanced because you're pushing into the enemy spawn. But no, the problem with that is that both teams have that advantage. If you push 100 meters into enemy territory, they have the advantage. And if they push 100 meters into your territory, you have the advantage. It doesn't balance or cancel out the 26 wasted seconds. This is the same as maps that people say have oppressive high ground that favors defense. Yeah, maybe they do, but in comp, when you switch sides, the opposing team has that same oppressive high ground. That's balanced because both teams have a term being on the crap spot. There are no modes besides push where you have control for a time and get zero benefit from it. Now, you might also be thinking, but once they get back to the center, both teams basically have the same distance to travel. Sort of right, but while the distance is the same, if the leading team wins, Jason is going to sprint back to his spot by the time the team regroups. If the losing team wins, then they walk very slowly into the enemy territory. And this is even made worse by the ult economy since the leading team has that lead because they won more fights and therefore are more likely to have more ult charge for the next fights. So let's take a look at the actual math that goes into push. For starters, Jason push is at 1.04 meters per second, and he walks back while not pushing at 5.28 meters per second. This means that if a leading team has an advantage of 50, the other team needs to move 106 meters in order to win. This is because the leading team has it at 50, the losing team needs to move at 50 to the center, plus the 5 meters of neutral ground, plus another 50, plus 1. So that's where that number comes from. It's this times 2 plus the 5 neutral meters plus 1 more to win the game. This means that if the lead team had the point at 50 meters, then that means that they were in control for 48.08 seconds. And the losing team, in order to win, would need to have control for 58.51 seconds. That's 10 extra seconds that they need to control the point for. Now, as this number goes up, at 100 meters, the other team needs to control for 20 extra seconds. And in Super's case, the team got it to 132 meters over 2 minutes and 7 seconds, which is correct, about 127 seconds. And Super's team spent 26 seconds walking back to neutral ground. That was just time that was wasted. He still needs to walk the 132 meters plus the neutral ground plus 1 meter in order to win the match. How does this make sense? Why is it that depending on how much one team has moved, it changes the amount that the other team has to move? How does that balance out? Now for comparison, let's look at Control. Control is the only other game mode where both teams are working towards controlling the objective during the same round. In Control, both sides get 1% for every 1.2 seconds they're in control of the point. This means that if one team is at 50%, they took 60 seconds to get there. If the other team is at 50%, they also took 60 seconds to get there. And no matter what this team has over here, it does not affect what the other team needs. These are not connected. These are not joined together in the same way that these are. Whatever this side has, it does affect how much the loser needs to move. Why is that? It doesn't make sense. A user on the Overwatch competitive subreddit even created graphs to show how likely it is that a team will win if they have the lead. The bigger the lead is, the more likely the leading team will win. This, again, is not the same as Control. One team could have 9% or 99%, and that lead does not make it so the losing team has to work harder. But in Push, the more of a lead a team has, the more time the other team has to waste walking back. The caster and coach Avril even said about this mode that never in the history of Overwatch has there been a game mode where the first fight win matters more. So if you win the first fight, you get to move Jason into your territory, and the losing team has to waste their time going back to 0. He goes on to say, if you lose like 3 fights in a row, I think you're done. There's still like 5 minutes left, but you can just call the map, which is exactly what happened in Super's game. And here's a clip from Sleepy Stream. This was back in mid-June when this video came out that he's watching, and he was talking about how he feels Push is first fight focused, which again, he's not the only person that thinks that, but here's what he says.
A lot of different like locations where a lot of
I'd be honest, 2CP greater than Push or what?
great fights
I kind of don't know.
can happen.
Push seems very first fight sided.
A lot of
And then I made a comment in his stream, which he highlighted. It's right here. And he continues on with his commentary.
See, that's what I'm saying, chat, but like they said it with like a PhD, and I said it with like LMNOP. I don't know. Like Push is so first fight dominant. If you win the first fight, you go into the next fight with ult advantage, and you already have the distance from the other team. So then you win that fight because you have ult advantage more likely, right? And then you push even further, and then they have ult advantage now, so then they ult, but then they ult, so they win the fight. But then they have to push that shit back like 100 meters. And by the time it goes back 100 meters to the fucking start, you've respawned. And you fight over it again. And then you have ult advantage. I don't know. It's so fucked. It's so one-sided. First fight sided, I think.
And all of this is just to show that this has been an issue since push has been announced. People have been aware that this doesn't seem like a good game mode, and I don't know how it ever made it into the game. And I don't think I have to compare this to the modes where you switch sides, but just to be clear, in those modes both teams do these same exact things in each round. As a concept, they're balanced, and the maps are balanced. Both teams can push cart at the same pace, both teams can get OT, both teams have the same spawns. It's the same game, just on different sides. Even 2CP with all its problems was more balanced than this. But that first fight advantage is push specific. Overall, this is just not a great mode. But how do we fix it? Well, I don't know. I'm not a game designer. You can't exactly toss the whole mode. But if I had to guess, the best thing would be to make this best 2 out of 3 and make Jason zoom when pushing so you can finish a round. And if you make it to the end, the game resets and everyone's ult charge goes back to 0. And to give it a different feel, maybe they can change the skybox to morning, noon, and night, since designing 3 different minimaps like they have in Control would take way too long. But who knows, like I said, I'm not a game designer. I just refuse to play this game mode, but who cares? Who am I? If it were up to me, I think we should boycott it, but I'd much rather get attention on it so they can fix it. And I really wasn't going to make this video, but I don't feel like anybody's talking about this. It's a really unbalanced mode, and it really just needs attention. Now, after all of that, my math is not wrong by a lot. My assessment that no other game mode lets you control the point, yet get 0 benefit, it's true. But I do concede that I may be wrong in saying that it's a problem. Maybe it's not. Who knows? Maybe you disagree and think the game is balanced. Maybe it is. And am I looking at this the wrong way? Feel free to let me know in the comments, on Twitter, Reddit, OnlyFans, smoke signals, whatever. Just let me know. I'm just curious as to why this is still in the game. Now make sure you subscribe and tune in next week, when I'm going to argue that control is imbalanced, because both teams can get to 99%, and at that point, nothing before that matters because the last fight is the only thing that determines the winner.